Stop it! All right. Welcome to the Church of Mabus radio show. It's Friday night. It's a full moon. It's definitely a full bad moon rising out there for sure. Some Credence Clearwater. I just went out there and looked, and definitely, man, that thing is huge. Huge out there. And we got Jay McNicholas with us tonight, co-hosting. We got Jesus Payan Jr. from the show Breaking Bad. And that your name is Gonzo on the show, right? That's Gonzo, right? That's the show.
Yep, Gonzo.
Definitely cool. That's I've seen all of those, Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, and it's definitely one of my favorite shows, for sure. And Bob Odenkirk, love him from Mr. Show and all that stuff. He's always a great actor. Definitely. Well, I was surprised to find out that you were into Bigfoot and stuff. Like somehow I just came across it by accident, and I was like, wow, the Bigfoot stuff is phenomenal. It's some of the best stuff I've ever seen on any channel ever. Some of the stuff you get is just amazing. I mean, you can see their eyes and mouth, and it looks, it's legit stuff. There's so much crap out there. The stuff on your channel seems, I know it's 100% legit. It's amazing. I'm an experiencer myself, so that's one thing why I do this show. I've had weird things happen with UFOs. I've had weird stuff, not really Bigfoot. I have a Bigfoot book that's pretty successful called Praise for the Hairy Man. That'll stop in a second. But the dog, oh my gosh. But anyway, that's why we do the show, because I'm an experiencer. And all that happened to me after testicular cancer when I was 17 and chemo. And then my dad passed a few years later, and I started having really weird experiences, from things in the sky to I saw beings of light leave my house. Just weird stuff that I could go on and on about. And that's why I started, doing this show Together Info to see what the hell is going on. And this is year 13 of the show. So, year 13, and we're still alive so far. This year I may not make it. But tell me, yeah, it's been crazy as hell this week, let me tell you. But it's usually pretty calm, but this week's been crazy. But what got you into Bigfoot and paranormal and everything? What was the catharsis of that? What started that?
Well, not unlike yourself, I'm also an experiencer, okay? And what started it all was I was living in England. You're familiar with the Rendlesham Forest incident?
Yes.
Okay, yes. I was living an hour away when it happened.
Oh, wow.
From it. And that was also the first time me and my sister both have a memory from under hypnosis of a UFO coming towards our window, and then we black out. I was 3 years old. Also in that house, the house was very old. Like I said, we were stationed in England, and there was under the staircase, there was a boarded up wall where there was still bodies of slaves that were in there. So the house was haunted, very haunted. The TV would turn on itself, and this is before remote controls. It was when you would send your kid to the TV and make him turn it 3 ways or 1, 2, 3, and the TV would turn on and change channels while we're in the middle of the night, and walk up and down the stairs and all that crazy stuff. So that's how I started my life in England. So then, not even much longer, I turned 4 years old. My mom and dad decided to spend 2 weeks hunting for the Loch Ness Monster in Scotland. So I got to do that at 4.
Cool.
So that's when I started reading books, and I had the book, what was it? The Mysterious World by Arthur C. Clarke. And that was my favorite book in the world. Little 4-year-old, and I'm big giant book, and loving everything in it because it was relevant to me, except for Bigfoot. But I thought Bigfoot was pretty awesome, and that's when I made a connection back then with Bigfoot and UFOs. Fast forward many moves, many different bases, places I lived. I thought all those places were haunted. I'm still not sure if I'm being followed or I'm running into different spirits, wherever I go around the United States and the world. And yeah, it became more vivid. And then in the year 2000, I had moved to Rio Doso in the mountains. My mother had got a job with the force department. My sister got a job as a police officer there. And well, I'm an actor, so I always did my own thing, had my own tattoo shops and stuff like that. And yeah, that we moved into a cabin, and we were all, me and my dad, my mom, and my sister were in the driveway and heard Bigfoot scream. A real long, high pitched, running forever though. And I was hooked. I was like, oh my god! And I ran inside, jumped on the internet. And in 2000, there was not as easy as it is now. To look up stuff. But I found a site that had some audio recordings of Sasquatch calls, and it was one of them, like identical. And I was like, oh my gosh! And that day, it had did it like 3 times in a row before it stopped. And whenever the police department or the force department would get reports, Bigfoot, reports, they couldn't investigate them because officially they don't exist. But doesn't mean they can't share a story, with the report, what was reported. So they would tell me, and I would go investigate and do research, and that also gave me a really good idea on what locations they were around. Yeah. So.
And did it surprise you when you started getting them so visual? I mean, I know you do things to make it so we can see it better, but tell us about what was your reaction when you start seeing them so visually?
Okay, so I think my reaction to them would have been different if I hadn't experienced so much UFO activity in my life. I've got tons of video of UFO footage, so we'll talk. I'll show you some stuff later on that. But
Definitely.
I got a lot of UFO footage, like ridiculous stuff. But yeah, so it wasn't as I guess. Well, I'm an ex-bouncer, bodyguard also. I used to work as a federal detention officer, and on the prison SWAT team, all that kind of stuff. So my whole life, I did that from 16 to about 35. I was either being a bodyguard or some type of law enforcement and bouncer stuff. So my whole life was fighting and getting shot at and being shot and dealing with all kinds of craziness. So a lot of the intimidation factor and being scared is not as normal for me. You know what I mean? I can deal with it. I've been trained to be calm, in situations. So it was more like, oh, this is cool. Wow, right on. You know what I mean? And I think because of that and all the UFO footage and pictures I've taken, when I would see something, I would take pictures. I wasn't scared. I wasn't freaking out. I wasn't, bumbling and fumbling and trying to, just like calmly, okay, cool, right on. So now when it was like this, when they're that far away from you, it starts to change the feeling.
Yeah.
being scared does come in, but again, I don't take a gun out there for bears either. I try to handle it different ways. I know these creatures seem to understand when you have a gun, and even if you hide it, they seem to know you have guns, and they're not cool with that at all because they know what they could do. What can happen. So, I just put myself out there because I found that which is dangerous, but making yourself vulnerable is the way they'll come to you. They'll come to you. They'll find you if you make yourself obviously vulnerable and you're like, hey guys, I surrender. I'm not here to do anything. You guys are the boss. Just here to.
How do you make yourself vulnerable? No firearms. Is there anything else you need to do?
Well, I'll take mace, but not for them. That's for bears. I usually have a knife of some sort. When I do go out like overnights or anything like that. But mainly I just have a stick usually on me. That's to walk with, and hit on trees when I want to. I'm not trying to communicate with them as in trying to fool them by hitting on trees, because a lot of people are like, that's dumb. Why do you, that tree knocking stupid? Whatever. They do it. I don't know what the hell it means, but when I go into an area and I want to let them know I'm there and I know they're there, which would initiate some type of interaction, yeah, I'll knock, I'll do some whoops, whoop whoop, and then I'll yell, "Hey guys, it's me, it's Jesus. What's up? I'm here to say what's up," and because they have language. People can argue with me all they want, but I've heard
I've
it.
heard some of it. I've heard
I've
it
heard
on
them
like
talk.
Yeah.
Ron Moorhead and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so they seem to understand what I'm saying. May it be they're reading my mind or they are
Telepathic.
listening, and because I'm saying it. Yeah, so we don't know which one it is. And with telepathy, language doesn't seem to be a barrier for telepathy. And yeah, so that's what I do. I go there. I'm not going there saying I'm going to find this monster, this beast, this creature. No, I know there are people, and they have specific individuals that are out checking things out. So you're not going to be dealing with the whole family
Yeah.
unless it's a complete accident.
I've always wondered why they like appear to dudes with Republicans with guns in the woods. Like, don't do that. No, that's probably not a good idea. No, because I have a book, Praise for the Hairy Man, Secret Life of Bigfoot. I wrote with Andrew Colvin, and it's interviews with different people from Bigfoot. And there's the serious ones. I'm kind of funny about it. I believe it's definitely a phenomenon, but I have that Justin Smeja in there. What some people think that's a hoax. No one really knows, but just a bunch of interviews. One time, and Stacy Brown's in there, the guy from Finding Bigfoot. He was in some stuff with Survivor Man. He actually came out to my house once and was going to film me in a documentary about stuff, but something happened with the audio and they couldn't use it. That was my first TV experience and my last TV experience. But that book got me into the field and to learning more about it. One of the creepiest things about that book, if you look it up, the cover is by Bobby Beausoleil, one of the Manson family people, and somehow my other Arthur friend got use of that, and he says he gave him money in the commissary or whatever. I'm like, I hope so, because I don't want some Manson freak showing up at my house one day. But that art is beautiful. Right. If you look at it, it's amazing. Like, it's really good. But praise for the hairy man. But that's why I like it. But mostly, I think there's so many different ways to look at Bigfoot. Jay, for instance, believes it's physical only, and that's his right. I think there may be a little bit of both going on because I've had a lot of natives on and stuff. There's something else. I may not understand it, but they are good with some predator kind of stuff or something with the cloaking or something. They got some kind of stealth going on or something like that for sure. But that's what got me. But mostly what got me into all this the most is just seeing weird stuff. Like, one of my weirdest experiences I saw with my friend Chico in Georgia, these 3 hooded small beings in the woods standing near a black box. And we were both partying and stuff. And, it's like, do you see that? Yeah. Do you see that? And do a double take. And I still don't know what the hell that was. And I get creeped out about the little black box because I've, get paranoid. What was that little black box? And but a cat jumped towards them and they vanished. But that's why I'm open to Bigfoot. I'd love to have a Bigfoot experience. I think I've heard them and I've heard tree knocking, but I've never actually seen one. So I would love to definitely do it. But what do you think about them? Are they about the cloaking, and are they multidimensional, or is it just physical? What is your take on that?
I think they're just big monkeys. No, I'm just kidding. Well, like you said, I think there's a whole wide variety of them and what they can do. Okay.
Yes.
I think people don't want to believe there's only 3 or 4 out there. It's like there's a lot of them out there.
Thousands.
And there's enough of them. Yeah, there's enough of them to have diversity in physicalities, height, all that stuff.
Hair color.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. So I think because I recognize them as they're tribes. They have tribes, and they used to communicate with. I'm Mayan. I'm from the Maya people. My last name's Payan. That's Mayan for first ones. Okay. We have Bigfoots in our history too, and then here I was drumming and singing with the Mescalero, with the Comanche boys, and at different powwows. And what was really interesting is that some of the dances and the songs that they're doing were taught to them by very large hair-covered beings in the forest, dancing, singing with gourds, and taught them these things to share with the other tribes. Okay, so being as then if they have tribes, and we're around with us natives too. We have shamans, we have medicine men. So do they. Our medicine men can do things that the rest of the tribe can't. The regular people out here, experiencers, uh, telepaths, psychics, whatever you want to call everybody. We have a huge range of people that can do different things. Then we've got a huge range of people that have technology. I believe that some of the Bigfoots have access to technology, but not in the way we think of technology. And I think that's would explain kind of like with Aborigines' dream time and the way you go in and out of these different things with the what's that stuff called, ayahuasca. When you do ayahuasca,
Yes.
you go to the other realm. There is another realm, and if they can access it through vibration, a thought, I don't know, but I think it's possible. I don't want to cut out any possibility of all that weirdness. And the cloaking thing too. Is it their hair because the hair is hollow, not like
Yep.
ours? We have the medulla. They ain't got nothing in there, and it could absorb the light if they give a certain vibration. It's just like, or electricity. If they're electric, which there's a lot of stuff that happens when you're around them, then what says they can't intensify their electrical current in their body? This would make all the little hairs absorb all the light around them, like fiber optics. You know what I mean? You don't
Sure.
know. So I just leave it open. I don't dog on nobody if they experienced it. I wasn't there. You know what I mean? So unless they got video, we gotta take them at face value and hope they're not punks and deserve a good smacking for hoaxing and all that stuff.
Definitely, for sure. Oh, I've had Carter Bouchard on. He's with BFRO and stuff, and he showed a map of all the UFO sightings, and then put a map of all the Bigfoot sightings, and the hotspot locations on the map were like very similar, like very the same places. So I think I've interviewed Stan Gordon, and he has a bunch of Pennsylvania weird UFO Bigfoot cases. I love those. Those are definitely the weirdest.
Do this, okay? Just what
Okay.
you said. Get the UFO locations map, the Bigfoot locations map, right? And then get the giant skeletons locations map
Mm-hmm.
and 411 locations map. Make them all clear overlays and put them over each other. And
Yeah.
just splendor at the coincidence.
I've interviewed David
It's not a
about.
coincidence.
I've interviewed David about 4 or 5 times. That stuff is terrifying, and there's definitely something to it. It makes you not want to go to the woods sometimes after hearing some of that stuff. I do,
Yep.
of course, but there's some creepy
Well, see,
stuff.
this is
in there
the
for sure.
thing. With there's bad ones. Hell yeah, there's bad ones. There's good ones. There's some that hate us with a passion, and I mean with a vengeance. They hate us, and they have their own reasons too. But beyond us hunting and stuff, then you got the ones that are like super protective of us. I mean, like really protective of us. So you usually can sense when you got evil around us. When you're in the forest and you're around the bad ones, you can feel it. Or if they're just putting out they don't want you there, you'll know it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you gotta trust your body and and just be respectful and let them know why you're there because they're not stupid.
Well, you definitely seem like you attract them and get really good stuff for sure. So they definitely like you. And I would like to go out there and have some experiences at some point. And definitely, I don't even like guns really. I mean, I've used them before for practice or whatever, but I'm not like a gun nut or anything, so I probably wouldn't even do that. I've had the diehard like Stacy Brown and stuff say, "Do you want to go out there with us?" And I'm like, I don't know. I'd probably like die in 2 days out there in the summer in Florida. I know it's too much. Just going to the mailbox is rough for my pasty arse for sure out here when it's hot. But it's the heat out here is crazy. So just the fact that they get
Yeah.
out there in that humidity and stuff with all that, my God, I'd die probably. But the bad ones, I know I've heard different stories, from native folklore about cannibal ones and stuff like that. I've heard one story from Kawani Laparitis, who I've interviewed before. He wrote Sasquatch People, something about there was a bad one that was maybe eating people, and all the other ones got together and put him in a cave with something weird story about antifreeze and killing him or something. Like they took care of the bad one. I don't know if that was true, but there's weird little stories out there for sure about that kind of stuff. No doubt about it. And so what do you think about some of the missing 411 stuff? Do you think I know obviously, I don't know if it's just Bigfoot related, but what's some of your thoughts on some of that stuff? There's so many theories, I know.
Well, of course, I think a small percentage is murder. Just people killing each other.
Just crazy people.
Just sick, sicko, cuckoo bird. Now, I think, there is a big part of it being Sasquatch, but we got to remember that he's not the only one out there that we're dealing with in the forests and deserts. There's possibilities of, like I said, there's do you ever heard of the author Jacques Vallée?
Jacques Vallée.
Sure have. I always have trouble saying his name, so I know I know who he is for sure. No doubt about it.
It's Jacques Vallée.
Jacques Vallée.
I say Jack Vallée from Georgia. That's me. But yeah, I know who you're talking about. In Close Encounters, the movie, Spielberg based the scientist off of him. He also went to Skinwalker Ranch with Bigelow, and of course Bigelow hoards into the space tyrant and hasn't told us crap hardly a little bit. But I would love to know what happened there with that for sure. But we don't know.
I had Bigelow Aerospace contact me, or their investigators. I thought it was a joke because this is before he was like out there with all this really, and they called me up and said, next time the ship comes to pick you up while you're up there, could you please try to look at the propulsion compartment and look at it really good, and when you get back, try to sketch it for us and email it to us. And I hadn't told anybody yet, that I was being visited, and. They were real matter of fact with it, and Jacques Vallée. Okay, so Jacques Vallée or J Valley, he he wrote a book called Passport to Magonia. Okay,
heard of it. Yeah.
Okay, if you ain't read it, read it.
I need to buy it. I have some of his books.
Man.
I need to buy that,
dude. So what he does in this book is, he gives the comparisons of modern day abductions, UFOs, the occupants, versus medieval times and other times, which back then they were called incubuses, succubuses, fairy lights, and the same things that happen when you're on a UFO sometimes happened back then. Same descriptions. The succubuses would come to your room. You wouldn't be able to move. She would climb on top of you, torture you by stabbing you with needles, and take your seed to get one of their succubuses pregnant, right? To make a changeling. Now, modern day abductions, you got this creature that comes down in your room, flies in your room, you can't move anywhere, sticks needles in your abdomen, takes your seed or takes an egg, and the story goes on and on and on, right? So we've been dealing with the same beings, the same leprechauns, fairies, goblins, trolls, all these different stories we got. They've just been called different things. Every different rise of our civilization happens, after every lifetime, whatever you want to call it, not just generational, but, whole, pieces of time. And they're still there. They're always there from the flood on forward. They're still here. They didn't wipe them out. Now, put a whole bunch of them in check. A lot of them did die. That's why I think it ties together with the mud floods, mud fossils, and what bugs the heck out of me is the what is it? How do you say the last name? Jim Vierna are the two brothers. They're masons, stonemasons. and they hunt giants?
I've heard of them, I think, but
Jim
You're talking about the guys that are on
Vieira, Jim Vieira.
the island
Yeah.
show. Yeah.
Yeah, they had a show on History Channel, In Search of Giants. With the two brothers.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So there's a whole community, megalomythomania. I can't say that word. Okay, but there's a whole group of researchers out there that research giants, right? And they, all over the United States and around the world, they're digging up these mounds. You know what I'm saying? Back in the day, and they found all these giants, right? Now we had a great flood at some point, and we got the mud flood. So a lot of those mounds, I think, weren't mounds when they died. They were stone, edifices and different buildings, and
Yes.
tombs and whatnot. So what kills me is this, okay? Like I said, when you lay the giant skeleton map over the Bigfoot map, okay, and their stories are, in 1824, an 8-foot tall giant was found, said to be a giant Indian, right? And over and over, same story, Indian or Viking, right? Can't be nothing else. But then you look at it with the map, and what do we have that's 8 feet tall, 9 feet tall, with a really thick skeletal system in the same damn area alive today? But nobody wants to say that or talk about that and put them together for whatever reason. I'm not sure why, but I have never heard once them say. There's even a picture of a big ass Bigfoot lady with a baby Bigfoot, standing next to two dudes. Have you seen that old picture? It's like a really old picture from like Barnum and Baden days, and it's a tall, hairy. It looks like a Bigfoot holding a baby Bigfoot with two regular sized people next to her, right? Not called a Bigfoot.
Yes.
Just one of the giants that they found, in those burials. It's like.
But there are also some stories about giants that are even larger than that, up to 36 feet. But some of them have two rows of teeth on both jaws.
Yeah.
So
6 fingers,
that's a
6
different
toes.
species altogether.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There was many different versions of them. That's the thing. There's a list of them in the Bible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you go to the Sumerian, the Enkidu's, those are big, hairy giants.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So, actually, in the Sumerian, they created Enkidu to fight Enki, the king Enki, and they fought for like an epic fight for 2 or 3 days, and finally they're like, you know what, we can do this forever and never kill each other. Why don't we just become friends and let's go adventure? And that's what they did until one of them, I think Enki, took Enkidu down into the underworld, and then Enkidu died down there.
Well, he banished all of the people. There was more than just him. He banished them all to the depths of the forests of the world, to never to mingle amongst man again.
Mm-hmm.
And what are we finding throughout the world in the depths of the forest that don't want to hang out with dudes and humans?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, so that's what I'm saying. The chances that all these bones that they found, not one of them being Bigfoot, in the exact spot they're at right now, I can see. So there's ones on other places that had the double teeth, double rows, but I'm just saying they're just cutting it out completely. The possibility, and that just bugs me. That's all.
There's conspiracy that the Smithsonian is hidden and/or absconded away with almost all of the giant fossils that have been found in the United States, and some even in Europe and across the waters.
Yep.
Which I find is amazing. If they find that kind of stuff, it's history. It's our planet's history. You don't hide that kind of thing. But they're out there. I mean, their stories are as far back as before writing, even.
Yep. And I've seen them.
Yeah, I've seen Bigfoot too, and unfortunately Jeff hasn't. But I'm 100%. Like he said, I don't think there. Recently, there's been a lot of people saying that they've seen Bigfoot phase in and out of our reality. He's, not a shapeshifter necessarily, but a dimensional being who comes in and out of our time-space continuum at will. And that might be possible, but there are in the Alien, I don't know if you're familiar with the Blue Planet Project book. Allegedly, it was a book leaked to this group that a Hispanic doctor from like Area 51 kind of stuff brought this information to them with, it's like an encyclopedia of alien races that have and or are still visiting Earth. And in that book, there is a Chewbacca creature. There's a Bigfoot looking creature that uses technology, and maybe they have a transporter, or maybe they are actually able to walk in and out of time-space continuums, by facing their, if they're just even 1 second out of our time phase, they're invisible. They're still on our planet, but you can't see them or interact with them. So that may be where the confusion lies. But I've seen Bigfoot as close to me as from me to that stormtrooper face, which is about 10 feet from you right now. And there's no denying what I saw. It was a human face. And I watched some of your videos. There's the one, this one scared the hell out of me, Siege at Honobia, where they talked about, you talk about the story of this family being just like harangued and harassed by this tribe of Bigfoot. And at the end of the story, not to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it, the guy that owns the house, he shoots one several times, and from out of the woods, more Bigfoot come and take the dead body and walk with it. And I've always thought that that's what they do. And I've been doing it since I was 11 years old. I'm 55. You can do the math, 44 years. And so I saw UFOs first, then I saw Bigfoot, and then I've just been researching it ever since. I've always thought that the reason we don't find the bones, there's two good reasons, and one of the reasons is from the BFRO. The first reason that I come up with is they're intelligent creatures. They bury their own. They don't just leave if they're walking from Florida to Ohio to go follow their food, they don't just leave Grandpa on the grass back there. They take Grandpa to his favorite watering hole or where he met his first mate, and they bury them in a sacred spot. But we can't find them because of that reason. And the other reason, and this is Matt Moneymaker did this, and this is fantastic research on his part. They found a deer carcass, and this is on his show, Finding Bigfoot. And it was a recently killed deer. It wasn't humane. It was a roadkill. So they took the roadkill and put it in someone's backyard, and they staked the body down so it couldn't be dragged away. And so it was a full-size, I think, female deer. And it only took 7 days. Yeah. 7 days for the whole creature to go away. And it's the same thing with Bigfoot. If one happens to be on his own and dies in the wilderness, unless he's in a very cold climate, anywhere else on the planet where it's about, you got 4 seasons, his body's gone in 7 days, maybe 15 if it's a very cold climate.
Yeah. No, I agree. So,
and I don't know if you've heard about this one, and this is one of my favorite things, and I don't know if it was Jeff Meldrum that came up with this. One of the guys, I don't remember his name, he was with the MABFRO. It's one of your videos. He's talking about how he thinks the Bigfoot use like power line clearings to travel and navigate the East Coast. That's a good theory. I don't see why that wouldn't be true, but they don't like to be seen, so they're out in the open and exposed. If they follow those, they'd have to be inside the woods and kind of on the outskirts. But latest research is, and this is probably about 15 years old, is that they use caverns. This whole country is scattered with caverns that go everywhere. Maybe not all the way from the east to the west, but at least from the top of Maine to the bottom of Florida, or to at least the top of Florida. And I think, and other researchers think, that they're using those caverns to, for the most part, travel and avoid contact with you and me.
Yeah. Well, like here in this area, the two ways they travel is when they're going up and down the mountain is through caverns, which I know they're there from the bottom all the way to the top. Mm-hmm. And the natives here, the Mescalero Apache, they used to use those when the Spanish came and were killing everybody. They would go into those caverns and hide. And then the other thing we have here are like small, streams which create like miniature Grand Canyons, and we call them arroyos here.
Yes.
And they travel through those. They can do it in the daytime, but they prefer to do it at night. But like I said, I have like one of my first documentary. They were down there. That's the way they came. That leads all the way straight up the mountain to the reservation. And but yeah, no, they can go underground all the way through the mountain ranges, up and down it, no problem. So yeah, now sometimes there's some areas where they don't have that, and those are the ones that you get caught in forest fires and stuff, Mm-hmm. But yeah, we That's how they do travel like that. They're they know way more about this planet than we'll ever know in the areas around it. You know.
Well, yeah, and I mean there are places that no human has been. Even just in this country alone, in the Pacific Northwest, there's vast forests out there that you can't even get to by helicopter, let alone by truck or four-wheel drive. So,
Yeah.
in order for us to actually do a decent investigation, we'd have to go into some place that's so remote. You'd have to, bring in all of your supplies with you, and you'd have to be there for months and months, maybe even years to even find anything. And if any of you get hurt, there's no way you're getting to a hospital within a day's travel. And that's the only way we're going to find them. The other unfortunate way is, and I hope that doesn't happen, is that some crazy redneck hunter is out there and comes across one and accidentally or on purpose is able to shoot one and bring it to science. And I would rather that didn't happen. It's much rather have them capture it on video without being, like you said, all shaky and scared and screaming and stuff. But I'll tell you, I've experienced Bigfoot, and I saw him within 10 feet, and it scared the living what out of me. Just the howl alone, and it's something I don't know how long. How long have you been doing the research for Bigfoot? It's been a while.
Technically, like reading on it or in the field. Like, what do you mean?
No, both, yeah, altogether.
Altogether, it would be 40 years.
40. That's about the same with me for the UFO stuff. So, now when I saw the Bigfoot, he screamed at me. I mean, he looked me right in my face and yelled right in my face, and it turned my back yellow. Scared the living.
He was watching kids, right? He was something about he was watching the kids, and Jay saw him, and he got mad.
We were in Ohio at my cousin's house, and it was Thanksgiving time, and I don't know if this was the weekend after Thanksgiving or the days before it, but I was at my cousin's house. My brother and sister were at another cousin's house, so it was just me and my 5 or 6 cousins. And two of the cousins were babies. They still had diapers on. And so I started smelling, this nasty poo. So I told my oldest cousin, I said, hey, one of your younger brother or sister has just soiled themselves. Get them out of here so they can, we don't have to smell their poo. And at that exact moment, I looked over at the window, which was open. Now, this is fall time in Ohio, so it was kind of cold. But the window was open. There was a screen in the window, and there's this huge, hairy face. Now, the skin around the eyes, nose, forehead, and like me around here was all bare, dark brown or black skin, but he had a huge mustache. It looked like kind of like one of those hippie mustaches. He had
handlebar. Handlebar.
That's the one. Handlebar mustache. He had, as far as I could tell, mostly brown, but he had a little bit of grayish and a little bit of yellowing hair. So I mean, he was an older example of Bigfoot. And we're on the second level of this home that he's looking into the window. And I'll tell you how he was doing that in a minute. But I saw him through this window, and I just froze. I was like, in my 10-year-old head, I probably said, holy. And then he saw me, seeing him, and his face was at that time happiness and joy. He was enjoying watching us playing and jumping on the beds. Then he saw that he was captured by my eyes, and he went from joy to anger, and he looked me in the face and went, rah! And I can't replicate the vocal, but anytime now I hear a Bigfoot vocal, I know it's real. We humans cannot replicate that kind of vocalization. And when humans do, like Bigfoot shows, and they do a Bigfoot call, nothing happens. I don't get that flight or fight response. But when I hear the Bigfoot reply, I get the flight or fright response, and I know. So we ran downstairs when he screamed. All 5 or 6 or 7 of us ran downstairs to where the babysitter was, just in time to see him jumping off. In the backyard, they had a little house, like log cabin playhouse. I had the same playhouse at my house in Maryland. He jumps off of that into their sand pit. They had a sandbox right next to it. And he took 3 strides, and he was out of their backyard and gone. The babysitter was screaming. My younger cousins were screaming. And I'm screaming. And then at the end of the day, my aunt and uncle came by, and we told them they thought we were a bunch of fools. The next day, we were able to see where he was. On the side of the house, there was like, vinyl siding. You could see his handprints on either side of the window. Now, regular size window, I can't put my hands on either side of the window. I'm not big enough. It's impossible. But he had left 2 big hairy prints on the side of the house. And then on the gable of the house, the little toy house he was on, he bent some of the timber. So they were, dramatically curved in. And then in the sandbox where he jumped, you could see 2 huge feet where he left an impression. And we were able to follow his footprints about 3 houses down before he turned into the woods. And then in the woods, there's a creek. We lost him. So we think he went one way, left or right, up the creek to lose, someone who could follow him. And that was my first, and so far only, encounter with Bigfoot. But it was enough that I don't have to research anymore. I know he's real. They do exist.
Yeah. Oh, they do. Yeah, I've seen them. Well, when I looked into my tent, that literally, I say within a foot of me.
You got closer than I did.
A little bit. The other time was in the San Juan River. One was standing in front of me about, I don't know, 4, 5 feet at the most in front of me. We're stepping back and forth together, copying each other, and the last 2 steps it stepped towards me. So before that, it was like at 10 feet, 8 feet away from me. Mm-hmm. And then the last 2 steps, it stepped up that close. It was like, you know, and at no point was it mad at me, gave off any negative, energy. It didn't yell. We were making noises back to each other, tapping on rocks and stuff. And,
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to show it that I think you're a intelligent being. Baby steps. And because I don't, in regular society, people are usually intimidated by me. I'm covered in tattoos and 6'3", over 300 pounds. But when I'm in the forest with these guys, I'm the little guy.
Yeah.
And so it's a real cool feeling to me, because normally I feel that energy and static from a lot of people around me throughout my lifetime, and that's why they like it in the movies, me being the bad guy, because I can give that effect. And that's why I love being in the Bigfoot world. And the UFO thing, was more, I ain't have a choice.
Yeah.
The Bigfoot thing, I'm going out looking for it.
You're going actively after it.
Yeah, when the UFO stuff, I couldn't stop it. When it was like it wouldn't stop.
Earlier you said you were in a ship, right? I mean, that's the level. See, a lot of my UFO stuff that's happened has been stuff over my house, but I don't remember being taken, but it seems like they were there for me. So I'm like, are they taking me? And I just don't remember anything. I really don't know, but they've been there with witnesses. I've had friends say, Jeffrey, they're here because of you. And so I'm like, maybe they are, and I just don't remember anything. But what can you tell us more about actually being taken, and what kind of beings? What did you see?
Several different kinds. It's been like, it was almost like I was being visited for a period of time by like different kinds. Like they were curious as why this group was visiting me. They wanted to find out. Does that make sense? You know what I mean?
Yes.
And
maybe your bloodline.
I think that has a huge part of it. It goes deep. It goes deep. And
you said Payan. That's a possibility. It's pretty.
Yeah, I'm Mayan French. Okay. And so my last name Payan, like I said, in Mayan it means first ones, and then on my European side, with the French Payan, Hugo de Payan. I don't know if you heard that name, Hughes de Payan. He was the founder of the Knights Templar. He founded the Knights Templar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Talked about them on here before. Sure.
Yeah, so on both sides of the realm, and so I have memories of them coming in my room. When I was little, I didn't know what it was. I thought it was, ghosts and stuff messing with me. Would go to me. My mom said she would put me in my cradle and with diapers on. She'd come back. They'd be in the morning. They'd be off, but still closed up. Not pulled apart or pulled off, but that continued into my childhood. I'd go to bed with my pajamas on and have a weird dream, wake up, no more pajamas. It got to the point where I just stopped wearing pajamas to bed, because that's like, for a long time, that's how I knew something was happening, and if I'm already all, a la birthday suit, I can't tell. You know,
I've had that happen when I was a kid. Wake up butt naked. So you're making me
Yep.
wonder now.
You know, and I had been seeing UFOs all the time growing up in the Air Force bases, and I thought it was normal. I thought it was normal to see them all the time. And
Yeah.
one night I saw UFO, and I went to school and told my friends I was 12 years old, and I was like, "Did y'all see that UFO last night?" And they're like, "You no,
Yeah.
because they're
That's
not
what they do.
real." And yeah, it got worse and worse and worse as I got older. And I say not until I turned 18 did it start becoming doing it while I'm awake, doing stuff while I'm conscious. Because a whole bunch of it I don't remember. A whole bunch of it I don't remember, but where they actually show up. One night, one showed up in my mom's room, and she thought it was a crackhead or something. They got into her room. She couldn't move her body. It was standing in her closet. Uh, Almond-shaped eyes, wispy blonde hair, skinny, 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 thin, frail body, no lips, little nose holes, and wearing like little red speedos. And she was trying to call for me, and eventually she got up, ran to my door, and said somebody broke into the house. But while she was laying there, and she was trying to call me, she watched it, and it looked at her, and she said he looked like he was surprised that she could see him. And then like that, gone. And she ran up and got me, and I went around the house with a bat. I was 18 years old. Who messed with my mama? And so then it got really bad to where they were looking in my windows. This was in El Paso, Texas. I was living on Vulcan Street, right? And it got to a point where I had to cover up, right? I had to cover up all my windows with tapestries, and I'd paint murals on them because I'd see them. They'd knock on my walls and stuff. It was a mobile home trailer, that I lived in at the time, and yeah, they started coming in the damn house while I was awake.
I've heard of them knocking before, like 3 knocks.
Yeah,
and
three
stuff
times.
Like
Yeah,
that.
3 times. They'd knock right by my head where I'm laying, so it didn't matter where I laid.
What's so?
I've heard that too. Many times I've even heard my doorbell go off, and then I'm like, I have a new doorbell. It's a smart doorbell. Like last night, I heard it go off twice, and I'm like, looking at my phone. I was like, what the? And I've heard like knocking in my bedroom. It's a brand new house to me. The house is 120 years old. Is it haunted? I don't think so. But is it aliens? It could be. I honestly, and you talked about this being, growing up through Air Force bases. I'll bet if we did a study, if we did, a real good down to earth, heart to heart study, I bet you we'd find most of the UFO experiencers, especially most of the UFO abductee experiencers, are going to be children of people that work either in top secret areas, maybe even in like black projects areas like Area 51. Their children. My dad did top secret work for the Navy for years and years and years. And I spoke to him about UFOs many times and even asked him about aliens. And one time he told me they were real and they were alive. And then the next time I asked him, he's like, I don't remember telling you that. So he must have gotten in trouble for that. But I'll bet you that most of the UFOs that are abducting humans, they're going after people who are in, or at least children of people of very high secret clearance type jobs.
Yeah. Well, another thing is through my studies with abductees, a high percentage of them are type O negative blood type, type O negative. And a lot of these, what's interesting is, as I was studying, researching, because I was on Mysteries at the Monument as a UFO expert. Like I said, I'm friends with a lot of people in that world. And one thing I thought was really interesting was Bigfoot appearing in UFOs with the Greys, just like I never saw a Bigfoot version. I saw your traditional little gray guy. Some were more white than gray. Some are more cream colored than gray. I've seen the green skin, same shape, but with red eyes and green skin. The taller grays, the very tall grays. I saw. I have memory of being taken, and it was by what the only thing I could compare them to is the Rapa Nui. You know, those big giant heads, statues. Literally, they look like those things, but they
They're
were
not just heads either.
no, their whole bodies. But you know what I mean, buried.
Yeah.
But I saw the whole body of these ones. They look just like that. They're built the same way, just like those full statues, and had humongous. They're like 30, 40 feet tall, and had humongous big ears with huge lobes. Real, just looked like ancient leather, you know. And yeah, so there's all kinds of different things out there. I think that the UFO world and the world of Bigfoot is very, very connected. And some of these Bigfoots are flying ships. Like I said, not like okay with human beings with us. Okay, there's only certain people here that get to go into the Pentagon and fly, you know, the Air Force, the top secret stuff, right? Yeah, not everybody gets to do that, but we're all humans. Okay, same thing with the Bigfoots. There's a whole bunch of Bigfoots, but not all of them get to fly UFOs or have technology. Some of them just have to do their natural thing. A whole bunch of them are stuck here, don't want to be here, and hate us for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they've gotten to watch, you know, society rise and fall over and over again. They've been here the whole damn time. They get to watch it all.
Are they
think
the?
they know.
Do you think they're the Nephilim?
I think they're the children of the Nephilim, or were created by them. Created by them. Well, like you know, and they got too unruly. See, with the Native Americans, our stories of them is that they became too unruly. They were too strong, too smart, and way too tricky. They're real tricksters.
Coyote type of thing.
Yeah, so the God, you know, our creator and great grandfather, he, you know, pretty much the same story as the Sumerians. Banished them to the forest. You're not allowed to mess with man. No, and that's when the creator made us, our version of us, that was way easier to rule over and tell what to do. And that's our history. You know, and a lot of other histories out there too for this creature.
There's a lot of stories about the Native Americans. I think there's even one on one of your YouTube videos. You talk about the Native tribes would have to put out berries and offerings at the outskirts of their campsites to keep the Bigfoot, protecting them on the outskirts, but not to invade their territories. And if you look on the private chat over there, I put a link to a picture of the space Bigfoots. And that's a nice website. It's Bibliotheca Pleiades. And they talk about this one Bigfoot. It doesn't look like Bigfoot the way because I've seen it in real life, but it's close, and it's more like a Chewbacca thing. So I have a feeling that we're going to find, if we get the information out, there's going to be two types of Bigfoot: those guys that come from another planet that look like Bigfoot but are not, and those guys that are Bigfoot that possibly the children of the Nephilim, possibly an offshoot from our species. Jeff Meldrum, I think, believes they are either called Australopithecus or Gigantopithecus, which I don't...
Gigantopithecus,
yeah. Yeah, those creatures are like 13, 14, 15 feet tall, which there are some examples of Bigfoot that are at least, 12, 13, 14 feet tall. But I have a feeling that they're less than Gigantopithecus and more humanoid. One of your groups said they took some DNA and it came back mostly human, but mostly parts of it weren't. So that's compelling information right there. But I think what really happened is, if you're familiar with the Anunnaki, they in Sumeria, they're the gods that came down from Earth. As Giorgio Tsoukalos would say, it's the gods who from the heavens came to Earth. That's not what Anunnaki translates out. I've done some work on that, and it translates to of the sons of Anu. And Anu was the chief god or chieftain of that Anunnaki tribe, and his sons Enlil and Enki were given charge of the earth to mine it for specific minerals that they needed. I believe Enki was given the earth, and Enlil was given the
heavens and above. He was given the heavens and above. And
Enki, and Enlil was given the waters.
The reason why was because of DNA content. Enki had less DNA from his father and more of his mother versus his half brother Enlil. Yeah.
Okay. Well, in either event, both of them were then charged with mining the planet, and their workers, which were called the Igigi, I believe they called them the Igigi.
Yeah.
They rebelled and said we can't do this work because they weren't born of this planet. Our planet was harsher to both species, the Anunnaki and the Igigi. So they said we can't do the work. It's too dangerous. We're dying left and right. We need help. So they made several experiments. And then if you think about it, if you're an extraterrestrial species on another planet, the planet that you're not evolved to operate on, it's going to be hard on your body unless it's lesser gravity and lesser atmosphere. Our planet was probably greater gravity and more atmosphere than they were used to, so it was hard for them. So you don't just have one experiment; you have multiple experiments, and you don't like if you're going to mine up in the mountains, you don't take species from the ocean and bring them up to the mountains, and you don't take mountain guys down to the ocean. Where you're doing your work, you mine your workers from that type of species. Mm-hmm. So I think that there's many Gardens of Edens. I think there's one in everywhere they did mining. They did mining in Africa, South America, North America, every part of the planet. So they made several species. That's why we have black people, white people, Asian people. Every species we have on this planet is because they had to mine from the different apes in these different areas where they were working. And so there's more than one Garden of Eden. More than one type of human, and because of that, we have things like Bigfoot, and we might have even other things like even giants like the one-eyed guys, the Cyclops. It's very, very possible that they created all of those creatures, and then when they realized, some of these creatures we got to get rid of, there's the flood.
One of the creepiest things this Bill J. Bean, he's been on Coast to Coast. He's a spiritual warfare minister. He came on the show, and this was like some John Carpenter kind of crap that he said. He said basically that Satan, aliens make chimera species and like crazy mad scientist situations, but he tied it into Christianity. And I'm not saying I agree or disagree, but it's definitely creepy to think about. It was like a John Carpenter movie or something.
What you're saying, okay, this is the thing. I have done a whole bunch of research and studying many different cultures, histories, and compared them because I'm trying to find the truth. And just like with any detective, you got to get all the stories, compare them. Somebody commits a crime and there's 8 witnesses right at a bank, and you get all the people that were there at the bank. You separate them all, and you ask the first one, all right, who robbed the bank? What did he look like? The first person says, oh, it was a 6 foot tall white dude with a long beard and a red shirt. And then it goes the second person. Who robbed the bank? The dude's like, well, it was a 5'10" dude. He looked, I don't know, he was either a light Spanish guy or a white dude with a real big mustache wearing a blue shirt. So at the end of the story, the officer has to say, okay, out of 8 people, 6 of them said he had a red shirt. Probably had a red shirt. Out of 8 people, 5 of them said he had facial hair. Okay, so you put it together like that. Do the same thing with ancient histories of everybody's. Mm-hmm. Don't discount them as myth, legend. No. Look at them as everybody's different histories, all these different cultures, that it's actual history. Look at it that way. With you got the Greeks, okay, and like you were mentioning the chimeras, right? The Greek mythology, which is, I believe, real history of all that stuff that really did happen. And they made all those weird-ass animals, and cyclopses happened and all that stuff.
Yeah.
With the Anunnaki, when they said, hey, we're tired. Because the Anunnaki were just like us. They brought beer, they brought hemp, and they brought wine. Okay? Yeah. And they used to, that was the thing, they liked to party, have fun, and eventually those, 600 of them that were mining on Earth, they were like, man, forget this, we're tired. Inky saw this creature, on the African plains that we can mix our DNA with to create a new person, right? A new slave. So one of the like you said, one of the children that were born to the birthing goddesses was covered in hair, and could run like an animal. And then finally they got to us, okay, and that was right. And then pissed off Inky because even though he was the chief scientist on the project, Enlil still had superiority as in as the superior and said, you know what, these creatures are so special. You got to respect them like you're talking to me. Okay, half brother sucker. You know, I got heaven, you got the underworld. And Inky got pissed off. That's you know the rest of the story. That's devil, God, all that stuff. Now, if you're looking at UFOs as aliens, okay, sure, fine, all right. But if you believe in demons at all, well, the only way to have demons is you gotta have fallen angels. The only way to have fallen angels is you gotta have regular angels.
Yeah.
And if you have angels, it's a possibility that the story might be true.
Yeah,
okay,
definitely.
and if you're willing to open that doorway, okay, to that possibility, all right, then like I told you about Jacques Valley, he makes a point to explain to us that they've always been here. They're just being called different names right now. So
Yeah.
they weren't aliens back then. All we know is that there's a whole bunch of us, and everybody keeps on trying to get out.
Well, also,
You know
I don't know if you've thought about this at all, and I've thought about this quite a bit. What if they evolved off this planet and left and came back to find us? You know, I mean, we don't know. We don't know the whole story. They could have evolved on this planet, 2 billion years ago, left and come back, and then they, what would you do if you came home and there's people in your house? Call the cops. They haven't called the cops yet, but they've done in some cases heinous stuff. So
Also,
I do have a question for you about what you brought up with the whole Anunnaki thing again. How their first experiment came out hairy. If you look at 99.9% of all the mammals, just the mammals, not reptiles, not bugs, all the warm-blooded mammals on this planet, they're 95 to 85% covered in hair. All of them, because the sun is poisonous to their skin. And the fur they have keeps the sun from giving them cancer and burning their skin. We're the apex predator primate on this planet, and we're what? 10% covered in hair? 5% covered in hair? Our bones are thinner and weaker than all the other mammals on the planet. All of our brother apes, chimpanzee, orangutan, gorilla, even the little tiny spider monkeys, if you blow them up to our size, their bones are thicker and stronger and sturdier than the bones that we are born with.
Mm-hmm.
None of it makes any sense. There's no way the form that all three of us are in right now, there's no way we evolved on this planet by ourselves. Something came in and intervened in our DNA sequencing.
I'll agree with that. Definitely, yeah. I'll agree with that. That we are definitely not a natural thing, But now the hairy thing, of course, except for maybe me and you two.
Yeah.
we actually do have the same amount of hair as a gorilla or a chimpanzee. It's just that we have our hairs are weak and small in certain areas compared to them.
Gone.
If you ever saw my dad without a shirt, he could compete with chimpanzees. I guarantee you. Okay. And I see some hairy ass humans, and now of course myself. Yeah. But well, just like you've heard of hypertrichosis, correct?
Yes. The Wolfman syndrome.
Yes. So hypertrichosis is a whole family thing. It's not just one kid or two kids. No, the whole family has it. Okay. And they have the same amount of hair as us, but theirs come in thick, just thicker. That's the only difference, and longer. Okay.
Werewolves.
That's in us. That is in us. It's in our DNA. And I found it interesting. I did the research. I have a video on the hypertrichosis thing that a lot of these individuals, even though I've spoken with DNA specialists, and they're like, it's impossible for it to be hereditary. It's like, then why is whole families like that?
Yeah.
And they're grandparents. And they're, you know what I mean? No disrespect to, science and everything. I love science. I'm all for it. But if you're going to say it's science, make sure it's science. You know what I mean? Not just making it up because it sounds like it, Yeah. So it's not that far-fetched. for Bigfoots to be covered like that the way we covered. Because the same thing with them. They're a super version of humans. Okay, think about it. Same amount of hair, just thicker. Okay, so they can brave the elements. Their bone structure is way, way stronger than ours. Their strength is insane.
Way.
Okay, do you know how? Okay, a chimpanzee. You know how strong a chimpanzee is, like scientifically?
10 times stronger than a human male.
Okay, so a pissed off chimpanzee can grab a 500-pound weight when it's pissed off and throw it.
Yep. They can grab us by the arm and pull our arms out of the socket. That's how strong they are. Yeah.
Okay, a gorilla. Okay, a gorilla, about 6 foot tall, 6 foot, ish.
Yeah.
When it's pissed off, it can throw a 1,500-pound weight. Okay. Now, let's think about a 9 foot tall, 10 foot tall, 12 foot tall, 13 foot tall individual that has been known to flip bulldozers
and pull trees
like
out of the ground.
Yeah, pull trees literally out of the ground and walk around with a big full-on 60-foot tree. Like it's nothing. Like it's nothing. Try picking up a freaking log that's this long, that's this round.
It would take 2 or 3 of us.
And so they're super, super duper strong. They're obviously physically like perfect for surviving out there. Their feet are even designed specifically to walk over gravel and all kinds of cool stuff. They apparently are smart enough to evade our smart selves for quite a long time.
They actively avoid contact with us.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. So they're literally superhumans, because their DNA comes back as human. The DNA that out of all the DNA we got, it kept them coming up over and over. Human, female mitochondrial DNA. Father, unknown. That's when we go all the way back, which was the Anunnaki, Inanna, the birthing goddesses, where the story comes through. The Bible, you don't have to be religious about a person to understand that the Bible is partially true. If you don't want to believe the magic of it or the technology, whichever you want to call it, who knows? We don't know. Then look at it as a history book, because a whole crap load of stuff we're finding. Yeah. We're finding.
I was just going to say, what if they're physical Bigfoots and the dead ones are the multidimensional ghost ones? I mean, maybe there's like a spirit.
That's a question. That's a question I was wondering. Why there's got to be Bigfoot spirits?
Yeah.
Yeah. So some
no doubt.
Experiences could be
human
with
ghosts.
Spirits.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And then if they can vibrate, like I said, may it be this might tie together with the power lines. Okay. Now, if they are a energetic being that can absorb or expel energy, okay, like you said, they might not be going interdimensional. They might just be going invisible. Camouflage. Yeah. The predator, like you said, like predator.
Yeah, that's been talking about.
Yeah. One of my biggest experiences, and I've told this one till I'm blue in the face, and here in Florida on Silver Lake, one day I had been listening to this Bible on DVD, just like of waterfalls and scripture or whatever. I was trying to feel better, get negative stuff out or whatever. But something told me to go outside and look to the sky. So I went outside, turned towards my house and looked at it, saw 2 beings of light. I was completely sober. The thing I do now is Florida medicinal, but back then nothing. And it was like they were in my house, came through the roof and flew into the heavens. And it was 2 people made of light. And I got goosebumps all over me. And maybe they were deceased loved ones. Maybe they were aliens. I don't know what they were, but I will never forget it ever. And I think part of it may be what we are, I know shamans say, luminous beings of light, and they've had experiences. I've had some down in Peru, Don Oscar, and he says they gather in weird festivals and watch the shining ones in the sky. And maybe they're doing ayahuasca. I don't know. But if they are, that opens doorways. So it's not like it's a bad thing either. But I've seen them, and I'll never forget that ever. Just like 2 dudes. I don't know if they're male or female or what, but it's just like humanoids, arms, legs, and just like Superman out of the house, and it was definitely life changing, for sure. It was definitely weird. So that just shows there's different things on the spectrum, definitely.
Yep. So I believe in that the demons are real, and where they came from, and everything that's happening right now can be tied back to that history, with what went on back then. If you go beyond the Bible, well, like the Epic of Creation, the Epic of Gilgamesh, is a very way unedited version of the Bible.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. They're almost exactly identical, except for the Anunnaki version is a little more technically involved.
A little detailed, yeah.
There's more science in it too.
Yeah, 12 books are technical, and I've read the full Earth Chronicles and anything else I could get my hands on Sumerian to study the phenomenon, and because, like I said, you got to look at every possibility. No matter how silly or ridiculous it may seem to us, you got to give the possibility of maybe I'm wrong. You know what I mean? And we have too much of, because I don't believe it, it doesn't exist. Even if you saw it, I'm not going to acknowledge it until you show it to me and prove it.
Yeah.
Come on, man. So it's there's a lot going on, and like I said, I've seen the gamut: spirits, Bigfoot, UFOs, aliens. I don't think they're aliens. Those beings. I think they're okay. Here's an example. Okay, you know how they separated? There was a big war, evil, good, all that stuff. Whichever you want to call evil, call evil. Whichever you want to call good. People have different views on both, But at some point when that happened, say you got a Republican, two Republicans, okay? You have two Republicans, and one of them says, "Oh, dang it, I'm gonna become a Democrat," right? So now you got a Republican and a Democrat. When that Republican turned to a Democrat, did his car change? No. Did his shirt change? No. Did helicopters change if he rides in a helicopter? No. Okay. So when the big switch happened, the big war between good and evil, they're all the same type of group. There's all these different levels of beings in that one group in the beginning, before they started fighting. Then they went right down the middle. They took their group of watchers. They took their group of watchers. They took their group, and this angel, this one that fights, this one, whatever. Okay, so we're seeing a whole the whole lineup in front of us today. Some are on the bad side, some on the good side. They're flying the same damn ships. We can't tell the difference. We can't see the logo. You know what I'm saying? We can't see if it's a Chevy or a Ford or a 6.0 or a what. You know what I mean? You can't tell. So it's what I'm saying is that, if we're dealing with what we're dealing with, just remember, we don't know everything. There's so much that we don't know. We question our own damn reality.
Yeah,
we're in it, and we're like, "Oh, I'm questioning. Is this a simulation?
It's Matrix.
Oh no,
it's the Matrix."
And then you got the Mandela effect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that one does screw with me because I've had that stuff happen to me, that Mandela effect. And whatever you want to call it, there's some things that I do remember different. Like when Isaac Hayes died. Okay, he had died like 6 months prior to when I heard on TV, Isaac Hayes just died, and I was like, huh? He died like 6 months ago, because I like South Park and Chef, and I used to karaoke my chocolate salty ball song that he does. You know what I mean? So I follow, and I love Isaac Hayes' music too. But so I really paid attention, and I remember because I mentioned it to my mom, and I called her out and I called her, "Hey, you remember when I told you Isaac Hayes had died?" She's like, "Yeah, that was 6 months ago that I had said that." Now, then one day, oh, Isaac Hayes just died. That's happened to several people that I've known that died. They died again. I remember their funerals and all this stuff. And, and Bear Stained Bears. What do you think about that part? I used to have those books.
I've heard stuff about it, yeah.
The Berenstein, okay. So the Berenstein Bears. I remember the books. I used to have the books. And it was spelled at the end of it, Stein. Okay? Stein. Yeah. All right? If you look it up today, now it's not spelled like that. It's Stain.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's
It's,
spelled how it's pronounced.
I hear it's because they're messing with CERN.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you look at the Indian artifacts, the ancient buildings from India, and some of the cathedrals that are around the world, they have the same design as the CERN, machine. And the first time, you remember who built the first one, the first device like that? Hitler.
Tesla? Oh, Hitler.
Oh,
okay.
yeah, Hitler. Yeah.
Some weird UFO stuff with Hitler.
His was way bigger. His was
the gravity bell or something weird, like
and then what statue do they have in front of the CERN building?
Shiva or something. Shiva.
Yeah, the god of war and death. And so if you read what, like I said, you put all this stuff together, all this information together, and you get it, you shake all the conjecture and bullshit and opinions and all that stuff, and you just go with pure raw data. It'll go punk into a perfect puzzle that goes together. And this part we may not agree with, this part we may not agree with,
but it fits.
Yes, exactly. So we get a lot of crap for the farther you out there and down that rabbit hole. But it's like,
the biggest thing about it is people who go through this stuff, and I've had dealt with PTSD from some of the weird stuff that's happened to me. Like I used to be afraid to go out of my house and think I was going to get sucked up in the sky when all this stuff started happening and things that. Freaks you out, so then of course you self-medicate. Luckily I only did weed with that, so that wasn't too bad, but a lot of people self-medicate from this stuff, and then you have society ridiculing you. The funniest thing right now that I love is when you if you type in Fox News UFOs, or any of them really, but that one's the funniest, when they're all freaking out about UFOs lately, all the stuff going on in the Pentagon stuff, seeing all those personalities, oh my God, UFOs, Marco Rubio, and Tucker Carlson, all those jerks freaking out about UFOs. It's beautiful. Yeah. But one guy I've had on, I don't know if you've seen the documentary Curse of the Man That Sees UFOs, Cristo Rapolo. He is up in Monterey, California, and he gets amazing footage of UFO stuff. But look that up sometime. Curse of the Man That Sees UFOs. It's a documentary. I think it's on Tubi right now. But he owns that dog Chewbacca from the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, but it passed recently. But he gets crazy footage. And what's funny about him is he's hilarious. He's like this 60-year-old punk rock guy. He names the UFOs like Mr. Squigglesworth, Egghead, Eggplant, Mr. Squidberry, and it's a really good one to check out. Yeah,
let me ask you guys, I love your guys' opinion, okay? So my channel is, I focus on Bigfoot, right? On my channel, Breaking Bigfoot. I have a lot of UFO videos on my channel, okay? And they're just on private right now, okay? So I'm trying to decide if I want to turn them back on and disrupt the Bigfoot, all the Bigfoot stuff. You know what I mean? I don't know if people would like that or not, or if I should just make a UFO channel for my UFO. Yeah, but to me, they go together. You know what I mean?
Yeah. For us that research it goes together, but for the herd out there, the herd mentality out there, it doesn't go together. They have trouble. They will believe. They're quick to believe that a fictional super being in a book that was created by man to control other men, but they won't believe in the fact that mathematically it's impossible that aliens don't exist, that Bigfoot exists, that all these other crazy things exist. They believe in this fake God, but they won't believe in a UFO. No matter how good the footage is, they won't believe it. No matter how good the Bigfoot footage is, they won't believe in it. They're going to say it's a hoax. And I get my researcher friends on Facebook are always sending me videos. Take a look at this. And I have a degree in video and cinematography production. I've never made it famous like you, but I know how to analyze film and video. Right? They show me these things. I'm like, it's digital, it's fake. I know right away. I can tell almost immediately, but your general public can't. So
I think you should unleash the Kraken, and I
put 'em
believe
out,
I believe there's Christ consciousness. So I just want to say that, like Nirvana, like stuff, Force, and stuff like that. But I would just do it, man. I mean, if you want to do another channel, great, but just do it. A lot of people respect that. I mean, look up Stan Gordon. From Pennsylvania, he has books, and all it is UFO and Bigfoot stuff, and it's the most amazing stuff. Like he's in Pennsylvania, and he's a serious researcher that's been around forever, and just give it to them right in their face. That's what I say. You ever seen that Dan Aykroyd UFOs Unplugged with Dan Aykroyd, the actor, smoking, telling us stuff? I love that one. That was a big one for sure. That's a good one. That's one of my favorites.
Have you seen Antonio Ursi, his videos, UFO?
I don't think so. Look it up.
Antonio, and then the Ursi is Urzi. Okay, you will lose your mind.
Okay,
the footage. Oh, dude, the footage he gets. Holy crap! I'm personal friends with this guy. He's from Italy, came in Milan, and it turns out he's a super duper Italian clothes designer that designs clothes for Lady Gaga and all. I mean, the big boys, you know. But he doesn't mention none of that stuff on his page. But solid dude. The footage he gets, holy crap.
I found some of his stuff.
Holy crap, the stuff he has, you know.
Some of the neatest stuff I've seen stuff that looks like a jellyfish in the sky, like a golden amoeba, like some kind of ocean life, but it's in the sky. That's one of the big weird ones that I've seen. Another weird big one that I've seen is in Lynn Haven, Florida. One day I was walking down the road. Sorry about that. That's one of his videos. I was just trying to save it. But anyway, I saw this orange rusty ball pass over the road, and it was a UFO. There was no chain hooked to it. Nothing was carrying it. It was just like a weird orange rusty ball floating through the sky. I don't know what the hell. Maybe Oscar the Grouch lived in it, but it was the weirdest thing. It was just like an orange rusty heavy-ass ball just floated over the street. And I was looking, is there something carrying that? Nothing. That was one of my weirdest ones for sure.
Here, I got a story for you guys, if you don't mind. I've got about 15 minutes left, so before I have to go get the wife from work. All right, so the year is 1999, summer, New Mexico, Las Cruces, on the outskirts in a trailer park, okay? And at this point in my life, UFOs are going crazy. They're visiting me. I'm seeing them all the time. I've taken in three kids. I had taken over a family. A mother gave up their children and signed them over for me to take care of them. One was like 16 going on 17, 14-year-old and an 11-year-old. Okay. And when I showed up, the UFOs did too. And all these kids got to see the UFOs all the time. And the little guys coming in our trailer at night and running around, they knew it was real. Okay. So the little kid had friends in the neighborhood. The roads are dirt roads. There's a cornfield, you know, it's real Mexican children of the corn, you know, over there. And so I would sit outside and with the kids from the neighborhood, and I would tell them my stories about, you know, stuff I've seen and, you know, ancient history and cool stuff, UFO stuff, you know, ancient aliens and all that. And they used to call me the UFO guy, right? So, you know, I was looking, UFO guy. And one day, you know, we're inside the house and we hear bang, 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 bang all over our door. Little kid bang, you know. And I open the door and it's a group of little kids. It's like, you know, 4:00 in the afternoon. And I was like, what do you guys want? And they're like, UFO guy, there's a UFO over your house. And I'm like, you little rascals, you know, stop playing. You know, and they're like, no, really, there's a UFO over your house. And I'm like, my friend, you know, the kid that was living with me, Anthony, you know, he's sitting right next to me. He's like, I see him looking over the kids, and I look over the kids, and sure enough, their parents are in the middle of the street looking up over my trailer. And I'm like, gosh. And I stick my head out, and I look over, and sure enough, there's a big glowing white disc going over my trailer. And as soon as I acknowledge it, I'm like, oh, great. It shoots off, boo, over to the mountain range that we live by, the Las Cruces Mountains, okay? And it turns into 3 balls of light, like triangle status, and then just starts spinning. And right over that mountain range is White Sands Missile Range, okay? Yeah. So, and then you got, Holloman, then Alamogordo. So we're watching it spin and spin and spin and spin, and the sun's starting to set, and the parents walk over to me and they're like, I look up, that's really cool. We're gonna go have dinner now, okay? Have a good night. And they walk off, and it just continues and continues, and I'm like, whatever, okay, we go inside too. And that night, which when everything went crazy, our electricity was off, and they were coming into the room. There was a bright flashing light in our yard every 10 seconds, but there was no light source. It was just a huge ordeal all night long until the morning. Well, a few days later, I go over to a friend's house. He was teaching me how to play guitar, and apparently his dad was one bad dude, and he was yeah, man, here, check this paper out. And he throws me the newspaper, and on the front page, this big old drug bust happened, and it was his dad on the front cover, and it got busted. And I was like, right? But on the left side of the front page, a long column, it said, Air Force says UFO scare only weather balloon.
Wow. This was your triangle.
Yeah, so I read it, and it describes it on this day. A UFO was hovering over Las Cruces and then shot over the mountain. Everything I just told you, okay? Yeah. And I'm like, holy crap, right? And yeah, so it turns out that all 911. Well, let me get to this part. Let me back up a little bit. My uncle, he worked for the police department as a dispatcher, okay, in El Paso, Texas, which is about 45 minutes from Las Cruces on the other side of the mountain. A little more south though. So I call him up and I'm like, yo, uncle. I didn't want to bait him or make a suggestion so he would say what I wanted him to say. Mm-hmm. So I just said, hey, uncle, the last few days, you get any strange phone calls? So I said. Then he said, that's right. He was that's so strange. He was I specifically told myself to tell you about what happened and not to forget. And I could literally, it was out of my mind until you just brought it up. He goes, yeah, all 911 lines, he goes, a few days ago were jammed from El Paso, Las Cruces, the whole surrounding area on both sides of the mountain. All 911 lines were jammed with UFO reports of that happening. So 2 whole cities and the base saw the UFO that stopped over my place. Mm-hmm. and they came in my room, in our house, and messed with us all night long until the morning.
Well, and probably those 2 top secret bases at Alamogordo and White Sands, I guarantee you they were looking at them.
Oh yeah, that's where, you guys remember the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind?
Oh yeah.
Okay, yes. Chip out on this. All right, so the little old lady that discovered me for movies and TV, she's the casting director for Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, right. So then I find out that Close Encounters of the Third Kind was based on a true story.
Yes.
Yeah, it was Holloman Air Force Base where that happened. In the White Sands Missile Range, right there. That's where that all went down, but in 1953. Mm-hmm. And one of their guys that saw what happened came into town to our little newspaper, daily paper here, and told them what he just saw, and they called up his boss, his first sergeant, his first shirt, and told him, hey, one of your guys is going crazy, come pick him up. And they came and they picked him up, But yeah, so also in that, on the base, the White Sands Missile Range, back to Bigfoot, there has been footprints, fossilized footprints found in White Sands, okay? And there was tons of megafauna in that area, but more recent...
Now, are you talking footprints inside the secure area?
Yeah.
Wow.
And actual reports from the military guys on Holloman Air Force Base and White Sands Missile Range seeing Bigfoot on the White Sands Missile Range. They travel all the way back up to the mountains and back underground through those, like I said, those canals systems that we have. They're all over the place here. And like I said, the UFO thing interchanged with the Bigfoot thing. I mean, they go hand in hand. People just don't realize it or don't want to admit it because they're like, no, I got to stick to just Bigfoot. Nope, I just got to stick to UFOs. Yeah. Nothing else exists, you know? And they're all doing us a disservice as researchers to all this stuff.
I had one of those guys once on Facebook tell me they were going to come to my house and beat me up because I thought Bigfoot was paranormal. How crazy is that? Like, God. So you take this shit a little too serious, buddy.
Yeah, people, I've had ridiculousness said to me, and I invite them. I'm like, hey, y'all want to play silly? I'll play. You know, and
I'm pretty sure
nobody ever shows up. You know?
I'm pretty sure you get them.
I've actually got a good question for you because you don't have a lot of time left and you got to go get your wife. So I don't know how familiar you are with, I'm sure you've heard of it, but I don't know how familiar you are with the Roswell incident, 1947.
Very, 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 very familiar.
Okay, well, so I am too. I don't know why, but I found this book. This is written by Don Schmidt, and I got this at the Dragon Con convention, science fiction convention in Atlanta in 94? 99. And he signed it for me. So it's an entire timeline of the incident at Roswell. So I'm very familiar with it, like how it played out from hour to hour and day to day. But the most recent research that's come out in the last maybe 5-6 years, I don't know if you've heard anything about it, so I'd like to get your opinion on it. My personal idea on that whole situation, and same with Stanton Friedman's initially, he's now passed, was that the area, White Sands, Alamogordo, Holloman Air Force Base, had received their most deadliest lightning storm strikes in decades that particular weekend. It actually was like, it happened at the end of June, like the June 28th, 29th, around then, when these aircraft flaps, UFO flaps, came around the bases. And my speculation, Stanton Friedman's speculation, was that these craft were hit by lightning, 2 or 3 of them, and then they crashed in various places inside New Mexico. But what's been recently said about it is that they were not accidents, and that we were testing, I believe at White Sands, we were testing targeting radar, the radar that we now use on our missiles, that it grabs a plane and it follows that plane or follows that boat and destroys it. So they were testing targeting radar, and they decided to try, and I think it was Nathan Twining who came up with the idea. They wanted to bait the UFOs, so they brought nuclear weapons onto the base to bait the UFOs in closer, and then they focused and aimed these targeting radars at these UFOs in an effort to down them, and not necessarily destroy them, but to bring them down so we could steal them and take their technology. So from what I understand happened is these technical radars, these tactical radars destroyed these at least 3 ships. These 3 ships crashed, one at Corona, one at Roswell, and one like almost directly on the base at Holloman. And it took the Army 2 or 3 days to get to the other 2 sites because they were dealing with the one directly on their base for so long. I don't know if you've heard about that whole thing, what you think about it, but it sounds intriguing if we were actually able to like go, oh, boom, boom, and shoot 3 of them down.
Okay, so what I heard, is when they were using the radar systems, they accidentally found out what it could do. When they were tracking one, they were tracking a UFO, and every time they pointed it at it, the UFO would lose elevation. They pointed, and they're like, oh. Now the Roswell UFOs, they first saw them on the East Coast, and for 3 days they watched them come in, and when they were close enough, that's when they hit them with those radars. And one of the UFOs landed on the other side of Capitan Mountain here. And the Brazzles, Mac Brazzle, family, they still register that same land and meat locker that was given to him by the military after all that. Right up here, like I said, I have family that work up here in that industry, and they have to pay for get permits for their stuff. And so what you're saying holds a whole bunch of it holds true. If you get a chance, have you ever heard of a author called Dr. Dan Fry? Daniel
I don't believe
Fry?
so.
No. Check him
If you
out,
get a
though.
chance, he wrote a book. I believe I might be wrong on the exact wording, but it's Dan Fry, a letter to man. I think a letter to all men, or a letter to a man, to men. In other words, it's a letter to mankind, but it's a variation of that as a title.
Yeah.
He was a real guy. It's not a fiction book, and he was working here on White Sands Missile Range, and he talks about all the nobody's heard of him. And I've done so much research on this whole thing. I even wrote a script called Top Secret Magic that Stanton Friedman got to read. He was going to be in my movie. I was going to making a movie eventually here about the Roswell incident.
Oh, cool.
And
Cool.
yeah, and because he has a book with the same title. He said, I'll let you use that title. He goes, for your movie. He goes, as long as I get to be one of the Majestic 12 group guys in the film. And I was like, you got it. So when the day does come that I can make that film, I'm going to use deep fake. Find as many images of Stanton I can, and I'm going to put them in the movie using the deep fake technology.
Mm-hmm.
So
cool. I've interviewed Stanton before. Well, I know you got just a couple minutes or so. First off, I just wanted to say it's an honor to have you here. Consider yourself a friend of the show, and we hope to get you to come back sometime in the future because I loved it. Definitely thrilling to interview you. And
anytime.
And your channel is Breaking Bigfoot. Is there anything else you'd like to plug? That's the main place, right? Breaking Bigfoot.
Oh yeah, Breaking Bigfoot's my YouTube channel, and you can find me there. And if you watch, you ever seen Saturday Night Live?
Yes.
Do you remember that spoof they did on MacGyver called MacGruber?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm in that movie. The whole movie MacGruber. That's me. I'm Dieter von Kumpf's bodyguard.
I haven't seen that yet, but that's a funny dude.
Yeah,
I've seen it.
Check it out. They're making a series.
Yes.
They're making a series now on Peacock, the MacGruber series. So keep an eye out for that. And I got a bunch of other stuff coming out soon. So
cool.
It'll be all Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say I love Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Those are some of my favorites for sure.
Oh hell yeah! No, I'm doing some more stuff with them too, and I'm gonna be putting out a short film comedy about how the Breaking Dead and Walking Dead are in the same universe, and how Breaking Bad caused that.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate it, man. Thanks so much, and happy birthday. Your birthday's today or tomorrow? Today?
Midnight.
Okay.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Have a great one, man. And stay in touch if you need any help with anything, and unleash the UFOs. Screw them, man. Do it. You can do it.
All right. Well, keep your eye out then, because you'll be seeing some wild footage.
Right.
Absolutely.
Just let me know. All right. Take care, and have a happy birthday.
Thank you.
Take care. All right, everybody. You listen to United Public Radio 107.7. That was a thrilling interview. That was one that get the adrenaline pumping for sure. No doubt about it. Jay needs to see Breaking Bad. He should be spanked for not seeing Breaking Bad. Come on, man.
You phased out for about 30 seconds there, so I have no idea what you just said.
I was giving you crap because you never seen Breaking Bad.
There's a lot of stuff I haven't seen.
I've
heard nothing but good things about both shows, Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. I never.
They're really good. Breaking Bad pretty much is about this chemist teacher that gets cancer, Bryan Cranston, and somehow he gets caught up in making this special blue meth that's very popular, and he does it to make money for his family, but of course it gets crazy with the cartel, and that's where Gonzo is mixed up with the cartel and stuff, and that's his character, the guy we just interviewed. But it just gets crazy as hell. You know, the Moff Gideon guy from Mandalorian is one of the main cartel dudes that runs a chicken shack in Breaking Bad. Yeah. You know, the guy that's the Darth, you know, the
Hispanic guy,
yeah, and he's in that Far Cry game, but he's in it. Like, it's just nonstop awesome. Like, you'd like it, but once you watch it, you'll be hooked and wanting to, like, binge it. It's really good. And then Better Call Saul is a spinoff of Breaking Bad, and that's about this crazy lawyer played by Bob Odenkirk that's like a con. And Gonzo, Jesus, is in both of those, and he's like, you know, the cartel, like this big old Mexican dude that you would not want to mess with for sure. But he could probably wrestle a Bigfoot and beat him up. But he's a trip. It was just a good interview, and I was very fortunate to write him. He's always been very friendly when you just talk to him, but I was like thrilled that he said yes. So it was just a really cool one. And our interview last week with Wild Trees got almost 300,000 something hits, man. I think it got
57,000. You said
300 something thousand, 57,000.
360,000 hits. That's
I don't know what happened to that one, but this would be a good one that could get featured too, because this is like a dude from Breaking Bad. So hopefully this one does good too. But that one, I was like, what happened?
I wouldn't be surprised if it gets a good million, almost million hits.
Yeah, hopefully you're an optimist, but it could happen.
No, he was fantastic. I mean, yesterday and the day before, I started looking at his stuff on YouTube, and I couldn't watch all of it, but I watched 2 or 3 or 4 of them, and it's just the pictures he got. And I wanted to talk to him about that. It was I forget what he called it, but the incident where he brought one of these redneck hunters with him. To find Bigfoot, and the Bigfoot actually like almost lifted their tent up, and their faces were, I mean, he said within 1 or 2 feet. He got way closer to Bigfoot than I ever did, but it scared the pants off of the other dude, the redneck hunter who's been up in. The redneck said he's been up in those woods 4,000 or 5,000 times or whatever, but he's not ever going out there again. It scared him so much that he is not going to camp or hunt in that area ever again. That's how scared he got seeing Bigfoot that close.
Yep. It's definitely some good stuff. He gets some good footage. I mean, and somehow he looks at it and makes it so he can see it better on his computer. And he's not adding anything to it. He's just making it clearer so you can see it. And you're like, well, yeah, that's some crazy. You can really, it's not like the crap you see with some of this other stuff. People circle stuff and you're like, I don't see a damn thing. This you see plain as day, like their eyes and their mouth and their nose. And this dude's a big actor that's in all kinds of movies and stuff. And he don't have any, he's putting a lot out there and a lot of.
He's got no reason to lie or put the stuff out. But what you're talking about is fantastic. There's one where he said they thought it was one, and then towards the end of the day, the end of the story, he says there was like 2 or 3 of them walking around their tent all night long. And then when he enhances the pictures, there's 2 faces, 2 different faces in that one picture he took, and it's just like
JoJo's there.
Brain faces.
You there, JoJo? You there, JoJo?
Hey, Cookie Monster.
I tried to pull him in the stream, but he may not be at the desk or whatever. But
he's in the kitchen eating something.
He's probably at the casino. The Cookie Monster has arrived. We don't have a show next week. I know Thanksgiving and stuff's going on, so I took a break for next week. And we have 3 shows in December and take a break, but got a lot of native guys coming on. I didn't know that Buddy's friends with Little Mike and Funny Bone from Reservation Dogs, these 2 dwarfs dudes that they're actually both of their names are Jesus too. So it's like Jesus, but it may be a Jesus in there somewhere. But definitely the footage is great, and I hope he releases some more stuff at his channel, because sometimes it takes a while to do it, which I understand he's probably very busy, but sometimes it takes him like a few months to release new stuff. But hopefully he unleashes all the UFO stuff, because I'd love to look at all that. I know there's some UFO stuff on there already on some level, but definitely a good interview, no doubt. Lots of fun, lots of good one, a big one.
Yeah, he was fantastic. It kind of sucks. Sometimes we get these really fantastic guests, but we only have a 2-hour show. If we had 4 hours, just imagine what we could have gotten into.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't understand what's going on with Joe. It's like there's a Cookie Monster now.
That's not even his office.
And then there's a Joe.
There he is.
I mean,
yeah, see.
I don't know.
That's not his office.
Cookie Monster. There he is.
What's happening, freaks?
Doing?
Look at the freaks. Oh, that's
smoking a blunt in there.
No, man, I ain't smoking nothing, man. I don't know what you're talking about. You crazy.
What happened to that wild trees? Wild trees. What happened to our wild trees? They got a bunch of hits.
Yeah, because you got featured on Google.
That last one we did.
Yeah, well,
that was a what?
Well, some of the shows get featured more often than others. Man, what the hell's all that noise? I can hear myself. Yeah, because I was listening to y'all. I was listening to y'all. Hold on a second. Yeah, I was listening to y'all through the speakers on the other computer.
Let me remove Cookie Monster.
There we go.
There it goes.
Nope, he's back.
Joe's got. Oh no, he's back. Well, I'm confused. He's got so many. Well, I don't know if you could do anything to spruce up this one. This is a big one to get featured. I don't know if you can do anything to make it happen, but this was a big one with Breaking Bad dude, so it's a good one. Hopefully it just naturally does good at least. Got that full moon tonight.
He's pregnant,
Jesus was Gonzo in Breaking Bad, and he's also in Better Call Saul. So
he's Gonzo and Saul as well, yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to ask him about Bob Odenkirk and Bryan Cranston, but I didn't get a chance to. Maybe next time.
Get him back on the show. We'll do a TV movie theme.
That's okay. I played Odin and Thor. Y'all didn't even know. That's just sad.
Oh yeah,
that was yeah. I know we missed it.
That was just sad. Millions of people see it. Millions. They're like, don't you know it was me? It's just sad.
Odin Thor.
Odin times.
Son of Odin.
It's Odinson.
You know, I was in Michigan a couple of years back, and they had a beer up there called Odin Time, and old time yellow ale or something.
Yeah.
It was. I tell you what, man, it must have been for a beer. It was probably 18% alcohol. It's like drinking a bottle of wine.
That's more like a wine in some countries.
That's what I'm saying. That's what it is in our country, you know. So I was kind of like. 16, 18 to 20s wine in the U.S. Mm-hmm. Liquor starts at 50, 60,
20 or 23, yeah.
Yeah, and
and
I don't prefer not to drink anything under 100 proof. Why bother? You know, if you're not going to drink the real stuff, why bother?
Yeah.
I've had some really expensive bottles. I've got 3 really expensive bottles sent to me. One I ain't going to tell you how much because it just floor your ass. Recently, I had a bottle. It was about $6,500 bottle of I was going to say champagne of whiskey sent to me, and but I've had like 4 or 5 bottles in the last 3 years sent to me. Just when COVID, I got sick in January. You know, with the COVID, nobody knew I had it. I got a really expensive bottle. It was like 27, 28,000. We were going to auction it, and then they said, no, it's for you. It's not for auction. By the way, it hasn't been opened yet. Just thought I'd say.
Well,
and,
give us an invite and we'll come down and we can crack that thing open.
Well, you know, the 2 individuals who gave it to me, which are very wealthy people, are good friends of mine. That's what they said. They said, you know, next time you do a convention, you get together with a group, we'll bring it down, you know, and everybody get a couple of glasses. And I think it's a weird proof. It's like 91 proof or something. It's an oddball when I seen it, so which makes it about 50% alcohol. It looks really pretty. Now, I'll tell you what I do have. I got a bottle of Henry's I picked up from in 1986. It's sitting on top of my cabinet right, never been opened. Looks like it's brand new. It's already aged 12 years, so I've aged it
another 12 years.
About 30 or not about 20, but I looked it up on auction. We go pretty good because we're going to be speaking of that before we get out of here. Next, we're going to be auctioning off some stuff coming up in the near future. So I've got what you call it? The flyer. It's not a flyer, but the pamphlet. It's not a pamphlet either. Whatever they give you when you go to like a gala or to an event, and they hand it to you, the brochure. They hand it to you. So I took one. I was the only person who's thought about this. So I had all these writers, that had won the awards, and all these artists that had won the awards. Jeff, by the way, I got to hook you up with all these writers. You'll love these people. And so I I was the only one who got all the autographs. On top of that, I got some of the very famous. The guy who just did Dune was there. He gave me his. He wrote in there. Matter of fact, I got a gig coming up with him. I met the drummer from Jethro Tull. He was there.
Cool.
He signed it, and then a couple like the guy who wrote Dune and a couple of the big writers who really make big money doing this, all signed it along with all the winners. So, and a couple of these winners we know in the future are going to be famous writers or famous artists. So, it's too good of a group that came out. This was 2 years worth because of COVID. They had to cancel it one year. So I got lucky and got the best of both worlds. And it was so funny because I picked the two winners. I was doing interviews with them. Every day I tried to get in 6 or 7 interviews. I think I got 25 done. And so I got the interview with them. And I was interviewing A, and I was like, dude, I don't know. I said, you're very confident. You really seem like you're a good storyteller. I think you might have a good shot at winning this. And then Barbara was in there later on. I was talking to her, and I was like, dude, I thought, Chick, you really got your stuff together. She was a police woman, by the way. She won. They both won. And then one of the other winners, that was 2 of the years I picked. The guy from Australia who won, I can't wait to introduce this big blue-eyed freak. This guy was high energy all across the board. He was super high energy. Now, next Friday, I got John Goodwin coming on when we're going to do I don't know if it's Battlefield Earth books we're going to be giving away. Anyway, he's sending me a case of books. We're going to display them behind me for the thing. So if y'all want to join, if anybody's around Friday, because I told him I'd do it because it's right after Thanksgiving, so I have a good crowd. Everybody's home. Nobody's really doing anything on Thanksgiving weekend. Usually by Friday evening, everybody's set where they're going to be, So they've already stuffed their faces out, and they're just kind of eating leftovers or hanging out watching the beach or something along that line. So, it's an easy audience to pick up is all I mean by it. And but no, yeah, Jeff, you've got featured a couple times. You should go look through your shows, and you'll find the ones that get featured on Google. You don't get featured in a featured spot on the SoundCloud because that's paid shows only. But I do feature the other shows on Google because I pay Google almost $30,000 a year in advertisement. And they give us almost 50 for paying that 30. It all started with a $150 card. I sent them $150. They said $150 advertising for $25, and then so I did it. The next one was like $350. Then all of a sudden, we were talking big numbers because the station produces enough advertisement now. So when you get featured there, it really blows your numbers up. They put you when they put you at the top of a category or top of radio or something like that. Stay there 3 or 4 days. It racks up some pretty good numbers. I can't tell you how long your listening time is because they don't show me that, but they show me the other stuff, so that's kind of cool. But I know you got to go because I got to come on the air in a minute and rant and rave about the craziness and talk about the kid getting released with no charges, and you're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah.
Well, be a murderer. Somebody's dead.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a good conversation. Well, Jay, you ought to come join us, and I think Mike.
I will. I'm going to go down and smoke. And
take your time. Take your time, because I got to still bring up the archive and all. But Jeff, what you doing for Thanksgiving?
It's been a long. I'm not doing a show that next week, but it's been crazy here. We have to move by the beginning of the year, and our mother's leaving. It's been crazy, so we have to move.
Moving always
Our mother's
sucks.
moving to Arizona, so I have to plan to get out of here by the 1st of January.
Arizona.
Yeah.
They're moving to Arizona.
I was going to say, I hate Arizona. Well, that's not true.
Arizona sucks. I'm sorry.
I shouldn't say I hate Arizona. I just wouldn't want to live there.
No.
I wouldn't want to live there either, so I'm not. But yeah, they're going. It's just crazy. A lot of drama. Crazy.
They tell me they got good weed there, though.
Yeah.
The guy told me that today. Good weed.
It's the only thing that'll grow in the desert.
I was like, that takes a lot of water too. I was like,
yeah.
I got a friend who lives there. I got 2 friends that live there. And a friend I don't talk to anymore, but they always tell me about, they do rock yards and shit because they don't have to pay the money to water their yard. He said it's ridiculous how much they charge you to water your yard, and then they meter your water and all that shit. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, the main product for front yards out there is either chipped white marble stones or AstroTurf. I mean, I saw so many fake lawns out there; it's unbelievable. And you know how they clean their yard or to make the yard look new each year is they get a can of spray paint and just spray paint their AstroTurf back to green.
And us poor people down here trying to give freaking water away, man. Anyway, I'll let you close out, and I'll shut up.
I'll be back December Friday, first Friday.
first Friday of
Yeah,
December.
hey, as soon as you can, Jeff, get me January and February, whatever you schedule out for me between me and Wham, so I can get those nights and days scheduled off.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Jay. Thanks, Joe, and we'll catch you next
Peace,
week
man. Peace.
on the Public Radio. Good night, everybody.
Good night, people. People of Earth, we're coming for you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Good night. Watch out for Jesus.